The night the woman arrived at Canberra village, the drums stopped beating. Old men later swore this was true. The talking drums, which never slept, fell quiet as if someone had covered their mouths. The fire at the center of the village cracked once, then sank low. Even the dogs stopped barking. Only the wind moved, slow and cold, carrying dust and the smell of distant rain. Her name was Zilika. She walked alone from the red road, her feet tired, her dress covered in dust. She was a black woman, tall and calm, with eyes that looked like they had seen many seasons of pain. On her head she carried nothing. On her back she carried nothing. But inside her chest, something heavy moved like a sleeping spirit. Canberra village sat between the forest and the riverlands. Behind it rose dark hills where ancestors were said to rest. In front of it stretched golden savanna, whispering under the moonlight. The houses were round, built with clay and wood, their roofs glowing softly under firelight. At the edge of the village stood a big modern house, strange and proud among old huts. It had iron gates, wide windows, and a cement wall. Everyone knew that house. It belonged, by paper and money, to Zilika. But Zilika did not live inside it. She stopped near the gate and looked at the house in silence. Laughter came from inside. A radio played loud music. The smell of meat roasting filled the air. Shadows danced behind the curtains. Zilika turned her head slowly toward the small structure behind the house. The garage. That was where she lived. The elders of Canberra had warned her long ago. "Do not buy land where blood has dried," Elder Mbaku had said, his voice shaking like dry leaves. "That house listens. That house remembers." But Zilika had smiled politely and paid no mind. She had worked many years in the city. She had cleaned floors, sold food, carried loads heavier than her own body. When she finally had money, she wanted peace. She wanted a home near her mother's people. She wanted roots. So she bought the house. What she did not know was that the house already had owners, not by law, but by greed. Inside the house lived Uncle Sengo, his wife Marloria, their 2 grown sons, and their sharp-tongued daughter. They were relatives by marriage, people who smiled with teeth and hid knives behind their backs. At first, they welcomed Zilika. "Rest here," Marloria had said sweetly. "We are family." But after the papers were signed, everything changed. They told Zilika the house was too full. They told her she was only a woman. They told her she should be grateful. So they pushed her into the garage. The garage was small and cold. Its walls smelled of oil and rust. At night, rats scratched the corners. When rain fell, water crept inside like a snake. And still, Zilika said nothing. That silence was the first mistake they made. Now, on this quiet night, Zilika placed her hand on the iron gate. The metal was cold. She closed her eyes and breathed in slowly. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled. She walked past the house, ignoring the laughter, and entered the garage. Inside, a small oil lamp burned. Dried herbs hung from the wall. On the floor lay a mat, a wooden bowl, and a folded cloth. Zilika sat down. She reached into the cloth and pulled out a small carved object, a wooden figure with no mouth and deep hollow eyes. Her grandmother had given it to her years ago. "When your tears become heavy," her grandmother had said, "the ancestors will listen. But be careful. Justice walks slowly, but revenge runs fast." Zilika placed the figure on the ground. Outside, the music from the house grew louder. Uncle Sengo laughed hard, slapping the table. "This house is truly ours now," he said. "The woman is quiet. She knows her place." The wind shifted. From the hills, a low sound answered, not a drum, not an animal, but something older. Zilika's eyes opened. She whispered, "I have endured." Her voice was soft, but the air inside the garage tightened. The lamp flame bent sideways, though there was no wind inside. She stood and stepped outside. At the edge of the village fire, Elder Mbaku sat alone, staring into the flames. His white beard glowed orange. When he saw Zilika, his hands trembled. "You should not be awake," he said. "I have been awake for many nights," Zilika replied. The elder studied her face carefully. "The ground around you feels restless," he said slowly. "What have you done?" "Nothing," Zalika said. Not yet. A deep horn sounded from the forest. Long, hollow. Warning. People came out of their houses, confused. Children held their mothers. Warriors reached for their spears. Uncle Sengo stepped outside his big house, anger on his face. Who is making noise? He shouted. Who dares disturb my night? Zalika turned toward him. For the first time, she spoke loudly. This house knows my name. Laughter burst from the doorway. Go back to your garage, Ma Loria mocked. Do not speak madness. But then the iron gate closed by itself with a loud bang. The laughter died. The fire at the center of the village flared high, sending sparks into the sky. Shadows twisted on the walls. The ground vibrated slightly, like a giant heartbeat beneath the soil. Eldon Baku stood up slowly. The ancestors are moving, he whispered. And when they move, someone always loses everything. Zalika walked back toward the garage, her shadow long behind her. Above the house, clouds covered the moon. Inside the garage, the wooden figure had fallen on its side. Its hollow eyes now faced the house. And from deep within the walls of that stolen home, a faint knocking began. Slow, patient, angry. The drums of Canberra had not stopped forever. They were only waiting. The knocking did not stop. It came again at dawn, slow and steady, like a fist tapping from inside the earth itself. Knock, pause, knock. The sound moved through the walls of the big house, through the iron gate, through the bones of those sleeping inside. Ma Loria was the first to wake. She sat up suddenly, sweat covering her face. The room felt cold, even though the morning sun had begun to rise. She listened. Silence. No music. No laughter. Only the distant call of birds and the soft wind moving through dry grass. Then, knock. She screamed. Uncle Sengo jumped from his bed, grabbing his walking stick. Who is there? He shouted, his voice shaking more than he wished. No answer. The knocking came again, louder this time, from the wall near the family shrine they had built inside the house. The shrine held borrowed symbols, cowrie shells, old masks, bones they did not understand. They had placed them there only for show, not with respect. Now the shrine trembled. Their sons rushed in, fear on their faces. Even the strong one, Barlow, who hunted lions, felt his knees weaken. This house is sick, the daughter whispered. I hear voices. Uncle Sengo struck the wall with his stick. Enough. Fear comes only to weak hearts. But his voice could not silence the sound. Outside, Zalika stood near the garage, washing her face with water from a clay pot. She heard the knocking clearly. Her hands did not shake. Her face showed no joy, no fear. Only patience. Eldon Baku approached her slowly. You have opened a door, he said. Do you know what walks through it? Zalika looked toward the big house. I only asked for truth. The elder sighed. Truth is sharp. It cuts both sides. By midday, strange things began to happen in Canberra village. A hunter returned from the forest shaking. The trees moved, he said. Not by wind. They leaned away from the big house. At the riverlands, the water turned dark near the crossing that led to Uncle Sengo's land. Fish floated up, belly white, eyes wide open. Women pounding grain heard whispers calling their names. And always, from the house, came the knocking. Uncle Sengo called a family meeting. We must stop this nonsense, he said. The woman in the garage brings bad spirits. Ma Loria nodded quickly. Yes. Ever since she came, the night has teeth. They all turned their eyes toward the garage. Zalika was there, sitting calmly, mending her dress. The wooden figure rested beside her. The daughter marched forward. You! What have you done to our house? Zalika raised her eyes slowly. I have done nothing to what is not mine. Uncle Sengo laughed harshly. Do not play games. We know you brought witchcraft. Eldon Baku stepped between them. Careful, he warned. Accusations wake sleeping spirits. But Uncle Sengo was too proud to listen. That night, he sent his sons to lock the garage from outside. If she wants to bring darkness, he said, she will sit with it alone. The iron door slammed shut. Zilika did not shout. She did not knock. Inside the garage, the oil lamp flickered. She sat cross-legged and placed the wooden figure between her palms. Far above, clouds covered the stars. In the house, the family tried to sleep. They could not. The knocking returned, faster now. Knock knock, knock knock. The walls sweated water. The floor grew cold like a river stone. The radio turned on by itself, playing an old funeral song. Ma Loria cried openly. "I see a woman," she sobbed. "She has no shadow." The daughter screamed. "She is standing at the door." But when they opened it, there was nothing. Only footprints. Wet footprints. Leading from the house to the garage. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air. The family shrine shattered. Cowrie shells rolled across the floor. The masks fell, breaking in half. A deep voice filled the room, not loud but heavy. "What is taken without honor will leave without mercy." The sons ran outside in panic. The village had gathered, holding torches. Drums began to beat again, slow and fearful. Boom, boom, boom. The iron door of the garage shook violently. Uncle Sengo rushed forward. "Open it," he shouted. The door burst open on its own. Zilika stepped out. Her eyes glowed in the firelight. Not with anger. With certainty. Behind her, the wooden figure lay broken in two. Eldon Baku fell to his knees. "The ancestors have answered," he whispered. "This is no longer a family matter." The wind rose suddenly, spinning dust into the air. From the hills came the sound of many feet walking, though no one could see them. Zilika spoke, her voice carrying across the village. "I was pushed aside. I was silenced. I slept among rats while others feasted in my house." She looked directly at Uncle Sengo. "I asked for peace. You answered with chains." The drums grew louder. Boom, boom, boom. The ground beneath the big house cracked slightly, just a thin line, like a warning scar. People screamed and ran back. Uncle Sengo dropped his stick. "What do you want?" he begged. Zilika turned toward the elders. "I want truth to stand where lies have eaten." Thunder roared above. From the crack in the ground, a cold mist rose, wrapping around the house like a living thing. And deep inside that mist, something old began to wake. Something that remembered every lie. Something that would not forget. The thing from the forest arrived before dawn. No one saw it enter Canberra village. They only felt it. The air thickened, heavy and wet, like breath held too long. The wind stopped. Fire refused to burn bright. Dogs crawled under huts and whimpered. Zilika woke suddenly beneath the ancestor hill. Her heart beat once, slow and deep, then settled. "It has come," she whispered. She rose and followed the narrow path down into the village. As she walked, the grass bent away from her feet. Fireflies scattered. The drums began on their own, without hands touching them. Boom, boom, boom. In the big house, Uncle Sengo screamed awake. The walls were bleeding. Thin dark lines ran down the clay like tears. The floor felt soft, almost alive. The packed bags lay untouched. No one had dared to leave. Ma Loria rocked back and forth, whispering prayers she had never learned properly. The daughter pressed her ears. "It is calling my name." A shadow passed over the roof. Not a bird. Not a cloud. The elders gathered quickly, their faces tight with fear. Eldon Baku stood firm, though his hands shook. "This is no small spirit," he said. "This is Nkura Silence, the one who feeds on ignored suffering." Warriors tightened their grips on spears. Queens covered their faces with cloth. Hunters backed away. Zilika entered the village square. The drums stopped. All eyes turned to her. From the edge of the forest, the shadow stepped forward. It had the shape of a tall man, but its body was made of darkness and ash. Its eyes burned red like coals. Around its neck hung broken chains that clinked softly with every step. Nkura Silence spoke without opening its mouth. Who cried and was not heard? The ground trembled. Zilika stepped forward. "I did," she said. Nkura turned its burning eyes to her. "Why were you silent?" Zelika's voice broke for the first time. Because silence was safer than violence, she said. Because I was taught to endure. Nkura turned toward the big house. Endurance feeds me, it said. The house groaned in pain. Uncle Sengo stumbled outside, falling at Zelika's feet. I will give you everything, he cried. The house, the land, the cattle, just stop this. Nkura raised one chained arm. Too late for bargains, it said. The price has already been set. The spirit pointed at the family. You lived in stolen comfort while another slept in rust. You laughed while the ground counted your debt. Ma Loria screamed as the chains around Nkura's neck flew toward her, wrapping around her arms. She fell, crying. The sons tried to run, but the earth grabbed their feet like wet clay. The daughter collapsed, sobbing. Zelika turned her face away. Elder Mbaku stepped beside her. You must decide, he said. Justice or mercy. Zelika closed her eyes. She saw her younger self. She saw nights of hunger. She saw rain falling on her mat. She opened her eyes again. Stop, she said. Nkura froze. The chains loosened slightly. They must lose what they stole, Zelika continued. But not their lives. Nkura's eyes flared brighter. Mercy weakens the lesson. No, Zelika replied. Mercy completes it. The spirit studied her for a long moment. Then it nodded once. The ground shook violently. The big house began to crack and sink. Walls split. The roof collapsed inward with a thunderous crash. Dust rose high into the air. People screamed and ran back. When the dust cleared, the house was gone, swallowed by the earth. In its place lay a wide pit filled with broken stones and silence. Uncle Sengo's family lay on the ground, alive but broken. Their fine clothes were torn. Their gold had vanished. Their bags were empty. Nkura silence turned back toward the forest. Your debt is paid, it said to them. You will walk with nothing, so you remember. The spirit then faced Zelika one last time. Your suffering called me, it said. Your mercy sends me away. Nkura stepped backward into the forest and disappeared like smoke. The drums stopped. Birds began to sing again. Sunlight finally warmed the village. Zelika stood alone in the square. Elder Mbaku bowed deeply. The land has chosen you, he said. But Zelika's eyes were on the empty pit where the house had been. I wanted a home, she whispered. Not a grave. The elders nodded solemnly. That night, Uncle Sengo and his family left Canberra village with nothing but the clothes on their backs. No one followed them. No one spoke to them. They walked into the savannah, swallowed by darkness. Zelika returned to the garage for the last time. She packed her few things and stepped out as the moon rose. Behind her, the ground where the house once stood remained open, waiting. Waiting for what came next. The land rested. For the first time since Zelika arrived in Canberra village, the earth felt quiet, not silent, but calm, like a deep breath after long pain. The wind moved gently through the savannah. Birds returned to the trees near the riverlands. At night, the drums beat again, but now they sounded warm and steady, like a heart at peace. On the flat ground where the pit had closed, people gathered. No house stood there yet. Only smooth earth marked with faint ancestral signs, glowing softly at dusk. Zelika stood barefoot on the soil. She pressed her palms to the ground and closed her eyes. The land felt warm beneath her skin, alive but gentle. Elder Mbaku approached slowly. The land has accepted you, he said. But acceptance brings responsibility. Zelika nodded. I know. The elders called a great meeting. Kings from nearby villages came. Queens arrived with long staffs carved with history. Hunters, warriors, women, and children formed a wide circle around the land. Elder Mbaku raised his voice. Let all hear and remember, he said. This ground was bought with honest work. It was stolen with pride. It was returned by truth. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Zelika stepped forward. She did not raise her voice. Still, everyone heard her. I did not call the spirits for revenge, she said. I called them because silence was killing me. The people listened closely. I was pushed into the garage and told to endure. I was made small so others could feel big. Her voice trembled slightly, but she continued. The land answered because it saw what people refused to see. She looked around the circle. But hear me well, she said. Power that crushes others always returns as destruction. And silence that hides injustice feeds monsters. The elders nodded slowly. That very day, the building began. But Zelika did not build alone. Hunters brought wood from the forest with prayers on their lips. Women carried water from the riverlands, singing old songs. Warriors shaped stones, careful and patient. Children traced ancestral symbols into the earth, laughing. No one was pushed aside. No one was locked out. At sunset, Zelika walked to the old garage for the last time. She looked at its rusted walls and broken door. She touched the place where she had slept through cold nights. Then she lit a small fire. This place held my pain, she whispered. Now I release it. The garage burned quietly, turning to ash under the stars. As the weeks passed, a new house rose, not tall with pride, but strong with balance. Its walls were wide and open. Its doors faced the ancestors' hill. At its center stood a fire pit where elders could speak and children could listen. No locks barred the doors. Only respect guarded it. One evening, Zelika dreamed. She saw Nkura Silence standing at the edge of the forest, chains broken, eyes calm. You spoke, the spirit said. So I no longer feed. Then Mwetu appeared, heavy and strong. You stood, it said. So the land stands with you. Zelika woke with tears on her face, but she was smiling. Seasons passed. Canberra village changed. Elders listened more closely to quiet voices. Families thought twice before using power against the weak. When disputes rose, they were settled in the open, before the fire and the land. People told the story often. They spoke of the woman who bought a house and was forced into a garage. They spoke of the family who laughed until the ground answered. They spoke of spirits who do not forget ignored suffering. Far away, Uncle Sengo's family wandered from village to village. They owned nothing. When asked why, Uncle Sengo would lower his head and say, "We took what was not given." And no one welcomed them. One night, many years later, Zelika sat outside her home, watching the moon rise. Children gathered around her. "Tell us again," they begged. "Tell us about the house." Zelika smiled gently. "It was never about a house," she said. She pointed to the earth. "It was about listening." The drums began to play softly in the distance. Boom, boom, boom. Zelika spoke her final lesson to the children, and to the land itself. When you silence the suffering of others, the earth will speak for them. When you steal with pride, you will leave with nothing. When you choose truth over fear, even the spirits will stand beside you. The wind carried her words across the savannah, into the forest, over the riverlands, and up the mountains where the ancestors listened. And the land remembered. The pit where the house once stood did not close. For 3 days, it remained open, wide and deep, like an eye that refused to blink. People passed it quietly, heads lowered. Children were warned not to look into it, for some said they could hear whispers rising from below, soft cries, broken laughter, the sound of chains dragging across stone. On the 4th night, the drums screamed. Not beat. Screamed. Boom, boom, boom. The sound tore through Canberra village like fire through dry grass. It came from everywhere at once, the square, the riverbank, the forest edge, even the ancestors' hill. No hands touched the drums. Still, they played. Zelika felt it in her bones. She stood from her mat and walked toward the pit. The moon was full, bright and white, washing the land in ghostly light. The air smelled of rain and iron. Elder Mbaku and the elders followed her, fear and respect mixed in their eyes. "This is the final test," the elder said. "The land is not done." The ground around the pit began to glow faintly, symbols appearing, old markings, older than the village itself. Warriors formed a wide circle. Queens held their staffs. Hunters lowered their heads. From deep inside the pit came a roar, louder than thunder. The earth split wider. Something climbed out. It was not Nkura Silence. This spirit was larger, heavier, wrapped in roots and bone. Its skin looked like cracked earth. On its back grew broken pieces of walls, doors, and iron bars. Its eyes were dark holes filled with moving shadows. Eldambaku fell to his knees. "Mwetu, the keeper of ownership," he whispered. "The one who judges stolen ground." Mwetu's voice was deep and slow, like mountain speaking. "Who stands on land taken by deceit?" The elders pointed towards Zalika, then quickly bowed. "She stands by truth," Eldambaku said. "She suffered here." Mwetu turned its hollow gaze to Zalika. "Do you claim this ground?" Zalika felt fear rise in her chest, sharp and cold. But she did not step back. "I paid for it," she said. "But pain lives here now." Mwetu raised one massive hand. Images filled the air again. The old house before the theft. The signing of papers. The lies spoken in smiles. The nights Zalika slept in the garage. The drums screamed louder. Mwetu spoke again. "Land must be claimed twice," it said. "By money, and by courage." The ground shook. "Will you stand, even if the land tests you?" Zalika swallowed hard. "Yes," she said. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet collapsed. She fell. People screamed her name. Zalika landed hard on cold stone. Darkness swallowed her. The smell of earth filled her lungs. She struggled to stand. Voices surrounded her. Mocking. Laughing. Crying. She saw visions of Uncle Sengo's family, pointing at her. She felt the cold nights again. The hunger. The shame. "Endure," the voices whispered. "Endure." Zalika clenched her fists. "No," she said aloud. "I will not endure injustice again." She stood tall. The darkness cracked like broken glass. Light rushed in. Above, the villagers saw Zalika rise slowly from the pit, lifted by glowing earth. Mwetu lowered its massive head. "You have faced the weight and did not bend," it said. "The land accepts you." The pit began to close. Stone folded into stone. Earth sealed itself smoothly, leaving flat ground behind. Then something incredible happened. From the sealed earth, new foundations rose, strong, clean, glowing faintly with ancestral markings. Not the old house. Something better. Mwetu turned away. "Build with respect," it said. "Or the ground will remember again." With a final roar, the spirit sank back into the earth. Silence fell. Then, slowly, the drums softened. Boom, boom, boom. Zalika dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face, not from fear, but release. The elders lifted her gently. At dawn, Uncle Sengo's family returned. They were thin, dust-covered, broken. They fell before the village. "We have nothing," Uncle Sengo whispered. "Only shame." Zalika looked at them for a long moment. Then she turned away. The warriors escorted them out of Canberra forever. No curses followed them. They were already punished. As the sun rose, Zalika stood on her land. For the first time, it felt like home. But the story was not finished. Because land that remembers also teaches. Morning came, but the sun brought no warmth. A pale light covered Canberra village like a thin cloth laid over a wound. The big house stood silent, wrapped in mist that refused to lift. The crack in the ground had not closed. It stretched from the front gate to the wall, dark and narrow, breathing softly like a living mouth. No one went near it. Birds avoided the roof. Even flies stayed away. Inside the garage, Zalika sat alone. The broken wooden figure lay before her, its two halves facing each other. She had not slept. Her eyes were tired, but her back was straight. Eldambaku entered quietly. "You have crossed the first river," he said. "There is no turning back now." Zalika nodded. "I know." The elder picked up one half of the figure. "This was a mouth that did not speak," he said. "Now the earth speaks for you." From outside, shouting erupted. Uncle Sengo's family had gathered near the house. The sons argued loudly. The daughter cried, pulling at her hair. "We must leave," she said. "This place is cursed." Ma Loria shook her head wildly. No. This house is ours. The ground answered her with a low groan. A stone fell from the wall and cracked in two. Fear finally entered Uncle Sengo's heart like a spear. He walked toward the elders' circle and fell to his knees. Help me, he begged. Whatever was done can be undone. The elders exchanged heavy looks. Then Elder Mbaku spoke. There will be a hearing, he said. Not only by the living. The drums began again, slow and deep. Warriors took their positions around the fire. Women lit incense made from forest roots. Smoke rose in twisting lines toward the sky. Zelika was called forward. She stepped into the circle, her feet bare on the earth. The wind brushed her skin like fingers. Speak, Elder Mbaku said. Let the ground hear you. Zelika took a deep breath. I bought that house with honest work, she said. I opened my door to family. They pushed me into the garage and ate my peace. Her voice did not shake. I asked for dignity. They gave me chains. A murmur spread through the crowd. Uncle Sengo tried to speak, but the ground trembled beneath him, forcing him silent. The elder raised his staff. Now, let the land speak. The fire dimmed. From the crack near the house, the mist thickened and rose. It formed a tall shape, neither man nor woman, made of smoke and soil. Its eyes glowed like embers. Children screamed. Warriors knelt. The spirit of the land had answered. Its voice came like stones rolling in a deep cave. This ground was paid for with sweat. It was claimed with lies. The spirit turned its glowing eyes toward Uncle Sengo and his family. Why did you dishonor the living and mock the dead? Ma Loria screamed. We are family. The spirit's voice hardened. Blood without respect is nothing. The spirit lifted one smoky hand. The wall of the house shook violently. Cracks spread like spider webs. A window shattered. Uncle Sengo crawled forward. Forgive us, he cried. We will give her the house. Zelika closed her eyes. Too late, she whispered. Elder Mbaku looked at her sharply. What do you mean? Zelika opened her eyes again. This is not only about a house, she said. It is about how power was used to crush silence. The spirit leaned closer, its presence heavy. What do you ask? It said to Zelika. The village held its breath. I ask for truth to be shown, Zelika replied. Let everyone see what was done. The spirit struck the ground. Suddenly, visions filled the air. People saw Zelika arriving with hope in her eyes. They saw her being pushed aside. They saw her sleeping in the garage as rain leaked onto her mat. They saw laughter inside the house while she starved in silence. Gasps and cries spread through the crowd. Even the hardest hearts felt shame. The spirit spoke again. Truth has been shown. Judgment follows. The sons screamed as their strength drained. The daughter collapsed, clutching her head. Ma Loria aged before their eyes, her back bending. Uncle Sengo alone remained standing, shaking violently. I was wrong, he whispered. The spirit turned away from Zelika and faced the house. This house will reject thieves. The ground split wider. A deep roar echoed from below. Elder Mbaku raised his staff quickly. Enough for now, he shouted. The night approaches. The spirit paused, then slowly sank back into the earth. The mist thinned. But the crack remained. The drums stopped. Silence fell again. Zelika turned away from the circle. That night, she did not return to the garage. She slept under the open sky near the ancestors' hill, where fireflies danced and the air felt clean. In the big house, Uncle Sengo's family packed their belongings in fear. Every sound made them jump. The walls whispered their names. At midnight, a voice spoke from the ground beneath the house. You have been weighed. The house shuddered. And far away, in the deep forest, something began to walk toward Canberra village. Something older than the land itself.